Okay, so this is the part 2 video with Erro for preparing any horse for an inexperienced rider. And here I'm just turning the camera on and grabbing him, and now we're walking into frame. We're pretty much picking up where we left off. Actually, in part 1, the reason I broke this into 2 parts is because I was recording without it being on airplane mode, and a phone call came in, and by default, I didn't realize that, so I just kept going on and doing this whole thing thinking I was being recorded. So now I figured that all out, and we've got Erro, and we're just picking up again right where we left off. So I'm still just notice I can ask more questions and we get a little bit of response. And see, I keep going until he softens, but when I keep going, that doesn't mean that I keep increasing pressure. It just means as soon as he starts moving his feet and saying, "Hey dude, I got a question," I do not increase beyond that amount of pressure, but I don't stop until he softens. So hopefully that part makes sense. And then we're just trying this on the right side and the left side, because we want to, what we do to one, we want to do to the other. And it doesn't, this is so critical. Notice on one side I'm like jumping around, and even on one side I might jump around and then go back to that same exact side and not be able to jump around. I might run into a little stiffness in when you're moving the neck like this. It's called flexion. He's really showing a huge amount of questions, and I think oh, I remember what it was. You might be able to hear it in the video. The wind started really blowing that little tin roof over there and started making all kinds of racket. And so between that and me just bouncing around, there I'm asking for permission to go in. Now, and right there, I'm pulling on his lead rope, which is dallied to the horn. So it's actually really soft right there. So here's a perfect example. He's like, "Nope, you can't come in on that other side." Now, I don't want to go in on that other side. See, I'm using rhythm to ask for permission to come in. And then he gives it to me right there. And then I walk in. A lot of people don't ask for permission. So when going back to like when they start moving like this, see, I'm actually not making a lot of contact with him. I'm just barely touching him. It's just how much energy is going on around him. It's not the touch. You don't have to like knee your horse. You just have to have a lot of energy in your body, really, really close, and then even just be touching the horse. So I'm barely tapping him, but it looks like a lot and it feels like a lot. That's the most important part, is that it feels like a lot. So here I'm just waiting for him to self-regulate. And he's just kind of standing there. I always want to give the horse time to self-regulate. There, see how soft that was? So nice. See, it's just the movement that's it's in that well, right? And if he's moving around, I'm moving around. If he's softening, I'm softening. And again, I'm behaving like the worst inexperienced rider on the planet. Because I want to know, what are you going to do when you have that rider? And hopefully you don't even have that rider. Hopefully that rider doesn't even exist. Oh, I think Scoutsy gets all involved here. Scout is my dog, and he loves coming out. He's limping. If you saw him running right there, he's limping because he got stepped on a couple weeks ago. His toe got stepped on. Erro has a hard time keeping his feet still. See, Scout gets all excited about it. Now notice that even when Scout's getting in there, he's part healer, so he just has to get in there. But that's even adding more pressure, and look at how well Erro's doing with all of that. Yeah. Then Erro's like, dude, get away. I think I told Scout to get out. Sometimes I don't need his help. He's self-regulating. It's hard to see in the video. Erro's got really soft eyes. His head's starting to come down. He's doing some licking and chewing. It's just a lot. So again, the principle is make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. So imagine if I just walked over and like calmly, quietly stepped into the saddle. He'd be like, holy cow, that's so easy. Way easier compared to this puffy jacket guy. I'm asking him to move this foot forward. See when we're trying to get these feet to be stable, not in a walking position, because then he's most likely going to walk. Now, when riders fall off their horse, what do they usually do is they usually fall onto the neck, and then the horse freaks out because they've never had anyone falling on their neck and holding onto their neck. And so I'm being that guy, right? Being that rider who's fallen down, and I'm just like, please save me, don't let me hit the ground. And I want to know, like, what are you going to do? And it's probably what he's going to do. So I think that was really awesome. Right there, he just thought, maybe I can just get away if I try really hard. But once I've got a hold of that rein, you know, I'm just going to hold it in position right there, no matter how hard they try. So I knew he had walked out of the camera view, and so I'm just trying to bring us back into camera. Without worrying about camera, of course, I would have just kept working at it wherever he was at. I just want to love on him, tell him, like, hey, everything's fine. Right, so he's just really stiff. He doesn't have a lot of, this is what they call lateral flexion. And he doesn't have a lot of it. And I shouldn't say that. He's got a decent amount. So I'm just waiting for him to soften. See how he's fixing himself? It's like getting his feet underneath him. I'm just loving on him, rubbing his ears. I'm feeling for his softness is what I'm feeling. You know, I want to wiggle around. See, inexperienced riders, when they hop up, man, they kick the horse, they drag their heel around, they knee them. They're floppy all over in the saddle. And so here, I want to do that lateral flexion. I think we're doing it in the part 1 video. I want to do this lateral flexion, but sitting in the saddle. Again, Buck Brenneman has an awesome video on this. And then he starts moving, and if he moves his feet, that's fine. It's when he gives it to me. So notice I gave him back the rein, and he's just standing there. So I'm just loving on him. You also notice that I hold on to the mane. Mane and rein is a really great principle. Horses don't feel the tug of the hair like a human does, and so you can really hold on to that mane for some extra stability. And it's a great, when you have a horse that's dumped riders before and you don't quite know exactly what he's doing, you know, or gonna do, and how he's gonna respond to things. I just like to hold on to the mane so that, you know, it can turn into a rodeo pretty quickly if you don't catch some of the early signs. See that back left foot's like, it's in a walking position, so I'd love to see that straighten out. But this is just telling us where his mind is, and so we just need to meet him where he's at. Now he's doing all of this. See, I'm trying to keep my feet way off of him. I don't want my legs talking to him in any way, shape, or form. I'm not telling him to go. So any movement is just all up to him. And I'm not going to correct that movement. I'm just looking for lateral flexion. Again, that same kind of softness that we were looking for on the ground, we're now looking for in the saddle. See, if I can jump around and do all that stuff, that's not going to be as much as this sitting in the saddle. At least that's the idea. So he wants to move around, and that's totally fine. You just want to stay balanced on the saddle, or in the saddle. Then he wants to walk over here, and he kind of gets curious about that little thing, and that's fine. I don't correct it. I just ask for the lateral flexion. I'm just letting him move his feet because he wants to move his feet. And there's a point in the early stages of a horse getting confident, that they need to move their feet to find their safety. And inexperienced riders will try to hold the horse back. And, you know, there I'm trying to let him move his feet as much as he feels like he needs to, because he'll be able to self-regulate if he can move those feet around. Ultimately, what we're trying to work out here is that he can self-regulate and doesn't have to feel like he needs to move his feet. But this is what we want. We just want this nice walk. You know, he could be softer, but again, this is not sure when the last time he was ridden. I didn't pick that up. You know, from the owners or the vet or the farrier, but that was, I think I'm just going to flip the video off. But yeah, I think that's a good little video for where Erro's at.